the last episode, we left off working on the interactivity, including some JavaScript, so we can drag and drop images on the new shot upload process. And this essentially just listens for events and adds classes to this drop area in particular. And then when you drop it, the image will parse and load asynchronously into the browser you're viewing. It will also attach itself to a hidden file input that's behind the scenes here, basically appending itself to the form so that when you do enter the data, you can go ahead and submit it. We do still have some work to do though, so this won't work right away. So we'll get this probably some sort of error. There it is, yeah. And this is partially, a big part of it is the controller itself. We need to set some things for Rails to permit, as well as queue it into when someone creates a shot, it's tied to their user account through devise. So let's go ahead and set that up next. The big one we'll need to add, which I just did before this, is the user shot. This is going to go in our shot params, which gets passed through when we do create a new shot. Basically, Rails is smart and only allows these things that you classify here to pass through forms for security reasons. So it's kind of just saying, these are all I want. These is what you should allow to come through. If they don't, or there's more data, don't allow it to post in a sense. So we use this shot params as a private method on our controller, and it's available through this before action at the very top. So when you use that and reference that set shot method, we can go ahead and apply it to these actions. So in this case, show, edit, update, and destroy. To get basically devise to work with all of our routes as well, it's pretty smart to do this other action where it's called authenticate user, and you throw a bang in there, and we'll comma separate it to only apply to these actions here. So it'll be edit, update, destroy. There'll be a couple more coming when we get into liking posts. We'll tackle that when the time comes. So these essentially, you have to be logged in to do these tasks on a shot. So if an edit button is displayed, it will first check to see if you are authenticated. So that's awesome. Okay, so a big first thing to do is on the basic index page, instead of just getting all, I like to order them. And you can do that. You first get all of them and then order. If you can type, just do it by descending order. And the created at comes by default on any new column or table you put in the database. So the timestamps in our migrations, or initial migration, I should say, have that stuff all ready to go when you do create a new actual model, so to speak. So those timestamps come with it. It's created at and modified at, I think. So, and then when we do create a new one, instead of just new, which works, we kind of want to tie into devise. So we're going to do current user .shots.build. And we'll do the same for this method here. Great. And I think that might be all. Let me double check. Shot update, redirect to shot. That's nice. Working. When you scaffold a controller or entire model in this case, it'll actually give you these different formats of which you can render. In this case, we're rendering both HTML and JSON. So if I were to go to posts or URL, whatever, I don't have any shots yet because we haven't figured it out. But if we did shots.json, it should render as basically an empty string right now. I've got a plugin that kind of renders it in a nice way, but that's always something good to know if you want to do a bunch of kind of JavaScripting kind of stuff going on with Ajax and whatnot. I think that's it for our controller. We can double check and see if this works or not now. So we'll go back to that view, create a new one. Test description. Cool, it did. And my browser thinks it's in French, so who knows what's going on there, but everything seemed to work. We redirected to the actual shot, as you see here, and we have our title and description for now. We can go ahead and edit that. It'll go back to this screen, which we've already, I copied and pasted this markup, just basically as we're reusing it throughout the same form partial in our shots directory. So if you go into views, shots, it's this file. So we're using that for both the creation and edit part of the process. And edits, only difference with edit is mainly the editing shot title here. And if you were to drag another image here, it should update at the very top. I should do a different one. It looks like it's not right now, so something's up with our JavaScript maybe. But we'll revisit that in a sec. So I want that to actually update like right in place and hide itself when that happens. So we'll see what's going on there. But essentially it's working, so that's great. Refresh this real quick. So I think what was wrong is my JavaScript isn't quite 100% like in case. So if you did this twice, it will actually throw another one in the DOM, which isn't ideal, but my hope is you wouldn't actually throw two in there. So if, you know, a challenge for you maybe to extend that and make it better if you're better with JavaScript than me. Notice the title here is a little funky. I might change that. In our fields, we can actually pass in a label attribute. So just do label title. I think I made it lowercase on accident at first, so that's something to double check. There we go. Cool. So that's working. Next we can, what should we do next? Possibly getting our layout of the shots to appear right. How about that? Because the home page isn't looking great so far. So let's tackle that. So I'll close this. And I'll open shots index, and we definitely don't want a table in this case. I'm gonna try to do this in real time for you guys because I've been copy and pasting a lot, but some of this stuff just isn't gonna work for us. Let's start fresh, and I'll do a section. So a lot of this is BOMA, but some of it isn't because I want it to display a certain way when we render them on different screen widths. So we'll get into that in a sec. Apparently Emmet isn't working. So the entire shot's going to have a lot of data coming back, but we'll see what we can do. So we don't want to render that. We want to do each loop here. So on index, we're looping through all the shots, and we'll end it just so we don't forget. And I'm going to add a class called shot grid item. Let me see if I have Emmet installed. Looks like I didn't. There we go. And shot wrapper next. Then we're going to do a big block that's going to link to the shot itself. And so it'll be a Rails link to the actual shot. And we're getting this, we don't need to pass in the @ here because we're actually looping through it, and we're getting this to use for each shot. if that makes sense. So we'll kind of separate that, add a class, and we'll call it shot. And then we need to make it a block. So you put do in the end there. And so anything in between becomes the linked thing. And inside here, we're going to actually display the image tag of the shot. So we can just do that by shot, user shot, URL. And that is, you remember the user shot parameter, what's what we're getting. Rails has a handy helper. If you just append an underscore URL to it, it'll pass the full URL of the image out, which is what we want there. Let's see, we got a div of shot data. And we'll have our title. Well, let's do some markup here. h3 dot shot title. And pass the shot title through. And shot description. And Rails has a sweet helper called truncate that allows you to truncate the shot. So what you do is pass in the shot description, and then you can pass in a length. I think I use 60 here. And we need to close that. And finally, the time stamp has another helper built in that allows you to display time ago in words, is what it's called. And actually, that's exactly what it does. So depending on when you posted it, it will post either the date, however many minutes ago, however many hours ago. It's all dynamic, so it's pretty nice. And we're getting the created at field from the database there that came with the migration in the beginning. So that should be the very base of the shot there. We can go ahead and see what happened. Undefined method shots. So it should be shots. And I think in my controller, I don't quite have that. I do. Okay, so it's plural here on the index. Notice. There we go. So we're getting the data back. It's all kind of not looking what we want it to look like, but we'll get there. So let's first add in maybe some CSS to make this appear a little more like it should. I'm going to use CSS Grid for the main thumbnails, and I'll actually pull that in from my other demo app. And I'll first grab this CSS. You know what? I'll probably just grab it all and then walk you through where it's coming, where we actually use this stuff, I guess. So let me grab that. I'll go back to my other window. Go into assets, style sheets, shots. Paste that in. And I don't think I grabbed all the CSS from the application. So I'm gonna make sure I do. Okay. So I'll just walk through what's in here. Basically in our, this is the drop zone on our forms. I've added this to the application SCSS file just because it's kind of a global property. Shots is the same way. Like all this stuff can be global, but at the end of the day in our application file, you'll notice these lines here. It requires, essentially includes all of your style sheets, and then finally itself. So all the styles here come last, and then this one comes before. It gets kind of just input in there automatically. And you can add more as you please, pretty much. So basically, we've got our drop zone here, the kind of the styles when there's a dragging event listener and the fire event listener. We added those in the previous episode, but these are just queuing in different background colors, font sizes, whatever. And then set some kind of default notification styles just so they display a little better on our app from Bulma. And then on the shot side, into each shot, it looks like I missed some actually. Yeah. On the shot side, we added all these properties, and the big one I want to talk about right now is the shots itself. The shot view at this point has this should be actually shots, excuse me there. This has the class of shots around each of the shots. So a shot grid item is going to be the main item that gets repeated. In terms of CSS grid, we're working with kind of a new thing here, and it basically establishes a foundational grid on your layout. And in this case, by default, we're going to do display grid and then grid template columns, which basically repeats 5 columns across the screen of fluid remaining spaces. And then there's a grid gap of 1 rim, so it kind of adds some padding there. And then at different widths, I'm queuing in how many thumbnails I want to display. So if it goes from 16 pixels and up, it will be, or 1600 pixels and up, it'll be 6 across. 1300 down, it'll be 4 across. 1100 down, 3. 8 down, 2. And then finally at like a mobile phone size, it'll be 1 full width. So once we get in more shots, it'll actually display and show like we want it to. Before I get into adding more shots, I want to add all the functionality to 1, so I can actually have that stuff all ready to go, and I won't have to delete any shots. But at this phase, you can kind of see what's happening when I'm resizing the window. It'll make more sense when we have more shots though. So let's go back into adding some more stuff into our template. All these styles are what basically make that card look like it did. So that's something to note. Go ahead and grab those from the repo if you haven't. Okay, so next we want to actually add some analytics on each shot. And these are going to be a nav, class of level, and shot analytics. Then we're going to just put in a level left here. We're kind of hacking what this should be, but I'm just wanting it to display the right way. And then one called level right. And then we'll have level item, 3 of these. And then the first will be data, or views, excuse me. So we'll count the views that's on a shot, the comments, and each of these will actually have a class of data too. And likes. So the first views one will actually have a link to the shot. And I'm using a built-in, not built-in, but we linked it in the beginning, a Font Awesome library. It's in the application template. So I'm gonna pass in, not sure why data is on that one. And then class icon, FAI. And then for now, I'm going to put like a 0 there. And this will actually hopefully show, yeah, just a little ticker like that. So great. I'm going to do that for the rest of these, and then we'll hook them all up as we go. So link to shot do, another block. Then within this one, another icon. And we'll eventually show how many comments are in this one. We'll have to actually generate that model and everything to get that to work. That'll be up next. So we'll do that, and then likes, or in this case it might be votes for the actual shot. Sorry, escaped my mind there. Icon. This one will be unique in the sense we're adding an entire gem to do the functionality on this one. So we'll come back and definitely hash out this probably after the comments are installed and ready to go. So let's do FA heart. And for now we will just, we need to close that I actually, and then I'll just put a 0 as well. And this will actually be inside of a span, which will make more sense soon, called vote count. And eventually this will be a link, so I guess for now I can fake it and just put an empty link in. This might break, we'll see. There, the styles came through there. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so that's the look of the shot. Right now our show page is needing some TLC, so let's do that next, and then we'll add comments in the next episode. So I'm going to go to the show page, and well, actually while I'm at it, this one still needs a user data class. So we want to display the user profile here. This one we should be able to do. I think I have the Gravatar gem already installed, so if you don't, you'll need it for this part. So let's empty this one out. So Gravatar image tag shot.user.email, and I think this is like spam filtering. I'm not really sure what this part is, but I'm just copying it. And we'll comma separate, add an alt, which will be the shot user.name. And then comma separate Gravatar object on there, and then we want to set a size of 20 here. That should be it. Okay, close the div, and then we need one more that is, I'll just do emit here, user/name, and in that, I don't need to break a line, we could just do shot.user.name. So hopefully, yeah, there we go. So the styles I already have in place, so this, if you don't on your end, it will look kind of crummy, but this is already taken care of. And again, as I said it before, when we first started the series, I didn't code in the actual profile page. So that's something you can maybe extend and do just to show a typical person's actual profile. Probably involves creating new routes as well as other criteria that revolve around the user instead of the shot in this case. We have our index pretty much set up. I'm going to go ahead and touch on the show template, and then the next part of the series will be introducing comments as well. So in the show page, let's go to views, show, pretty much get rid of this stuff for now. And this one's going to have quite a bit of stuff, so I may fast forward through this, but definitely check it out on GitHub if you have not. All right, so a big thing that might get you on this page, on the show page, we have access to this @ variable instead of on the index page where it's the basic just shot that's going through the loop. So it's something to make sure you keep in mind when you're adding this stuff. It will error out otherwise if you don't have this @ sign. So sometimes when you run into where you need to display a certain timestamp, you can create these things that are what are known as helpers. And they're essentially like a function that you can create and stow away and use at any time in your application. So here's one I created for this project that's called verbose data, or date, excuse me. Should be date. And it just basically displays time in a nice to read fashion. So where would you add this? You would go to helpers in your app folder, and in this case I'm going to add it just the application folder, and we'll add in a specific function here just to do the time convention we're looking for. So we call it the same thing, verbose date, and pass in the date, and then we'll do an end. And all we're doing is just date string f time, and then we pass in just the way you want the date property to display. So in this case it's full day or full month, full or small day or something like that, and then the full year. I don't know exactly how it will display, but we'll see it in the view here in a second. So when we go in, yeah, it displays it like that. So December 17th is the time of this recording. All right, so I'll carry on here and we'll keep going. So in this line, we're basically adding the image tag, but we're also checking in one single line that if the shot is blank or if the user shot doesn't exist, we don't want to display this. So it's kind of a handy way to do it all at once rather than creating a if block before and then ending it after. Just kind of save some code. The next part is going to be some controls for the user. So we actually want to check first if the user is signed in. And then if they are, they need to be the current user. So we'll do an and current user. So we actually want to go to and check if not only is the current user, but if the user ID corresponds to the shot ID. This is kind of a gotcha when you log in. I don't want a user to be able to edit any logged in user to be able to edit any shot. I want the current user who added that shot to only edit their own shot. So it's kind of confusing, but this is essentially establishing that check. So on my account, if I log in and want to edit a shot, I can, but if someone else logs in on their account and goes to my shot, they shouldn't see this, which is exactly what we want. So I'm just essentially adding edit and delete buttons here, and these will have some Bulma classes and stuff on them. So this will be edit shot path, and we'll pass in the shot and give it a class of button, just the default. And then our delete button. This will be just the shot path. We don't need to pass anything. We'll do a class of button. And then we also need to set a method of delete on it. Don't forget those colons. And then pass a data property through, which fires the confirmation window built in to your browser. We'll just say, are you sure you want to delete this shot? And that should round that one out. Great. So if all goes right, I should see those controls since I am the user on this account. We can check and create one more account. Maybe John Smith. There we go. J Smitty. Sign up. If I go to this, I shouldn't see those controls, which is perfect. We don't. Awesome. All right, I'm going to log back in as my other account just for now. Okay, and then on the show page, we're getting there. We've got our controls for the current user who has the same shot ID. And next we can add the description below. So let's do that. We'll just give it a content class and then fire in that shot description. And my description kind of sucks, so why don't I add some more just to make it a little longer of a description. Update it, should redirect to that shot. There we go. Cool. Next, I want to do the sidebar on the right. Below this will be the comments, which we'll add in the next episode, so stay tuned for that. I want to make sure our right side is up to spec though, so let's go ahead and add that stuff next. Make sure our grid is working right. Should appear on the right. It does. Awesome. Okay, so within this block, I want to have basically the same analytics we had on the index page, but just displayed in a different way. So I'm going to do some Bulma stuff here that makes this work a little nicer. Give it a panel class. And it's going to also have the shot or show shot analytics. So we'll pass in, there'll be 3 panel blocks and they're hyphened. So we'll do a *3. So Emmett is your friend here. First we'll have views again. This one will have comments. And the last will have likes. And I believe I gave all these data classes too. So. Okay, and then on this first block, we'll essentially do the same stuff. Icon. Then the eye. And we'll eventually get that account there. Comments will do the same, so span class icon, and then an I class FA comment, and then finally the likes, expand class icon. And iClass FA heart. And for now, these all just have 0 as an actual key and property, so that's something I want to just do. One thing we can do though is, I know this is going to have like views behind it, which right now it looks fine, but if there's no view or only one view, I want that to display in a certain way. So another awesome helper is called Rails pluralize. It's kind of hard to say. So you can actually just pass in a property like the shot. When we get comments count, which isn't there yet, we can pass that in, and then you can just pass in the actual term. So in this case, comment. So that would display, if there was 1 comment, it would display comment. If there was 0 comments, it would add the S, all that stuff. So we'll come back. I'm gonna just maybe comment that out for now and add it below here is where that should go actually. Great. So that kind of sets up our analytics on the right. We'll make that look a lot nicer, or at least render the data we want coming up. But I think that takes care of the show page. So I think in the next episode, we will start integrating comments into this app and get those hooked in. We'll start to see how many comments are on a shot on the home page, on the show page. We'll see how many, and then actually render the comment form below the shot and introduce all that functionality into the app. So I'll see you in the next one.